night. That's a long time ago. World War I was a great war, as they called it in its time. It was fought mostly in trenches. That means like holes. People would rise up and shoot and then go down and into the tunnels, into the trench. Germans were fighting almost every other nation on earth. The first year of the war on this night, 110 years ago, a truce broke out on Christmas Eve at a place called Ypres. Now, Ypres is the way the Belgians say it. But if you were in Britain and you said Ypres, no one would know what you meant. In Britain, the British couldn't pronounce that word, so they called it wipers. It was fought in the country of Belgium, wipers. Trenches not far apart. British soldiers could hear the German soldiers that night singing Christmas carols in the trenches, and I happen to know that Silent Night was one of the hymns, one of the carols that was being sung. The British soldiers were intrigued, and they were very drawn into the carols. Who could sing a Christmas carol in a war zone? A British soldier threw a note. They were that close that they could throw notes, wrapped around a rock into the German trench. I'm sure the Germans, when they heard the thud, all ran for cover. The note asked the soldiers to stop the war for Christmas. The Germans threw back another note saying that they would not shoot at the British soldiers. Another note back from the British saying that if they would not shoot, they, the British soldiers, would climb out of their trenches onto the no man's land, where the battlefield, and that they could exchange Christmas greetings. And the German soldiers threw back a note saying the same. One brave British soldier walked out of the trenches on his side. A German soldier came out of his trench, followed by other German soldiers, and of course on the British side they were coming up too. Both sides stood there looking at each other in the moonlight. They were afraid, but they walked forward and met in the middle of the field. They started talking, and they gave each other food, trinkets, clothes as Christmas gifts. It was all that they had. They sang Christmas carols to each other in their native languages. Being British and German, soon a soccer game began and they played together. I don't know who won. It really doesn't matter. That night they went back to their trenches, agreeing not to shoot at each other on Christmas Day. And each side kept its promise. I wish that I could tell you that the war ended, but it started up the day after Christmas again. However, for one moment, the spirit of Christmas stopped the terrible war, and men celebrated the birth of the Prince of Peace. When the German Kaiser learned of the Christmas truce between his troops and the British, he was furious. He stamped his feet and shouted. German soldiers were supposed to hate the British. The British and German field marshals and generals were concerned about their soldiers. They were supposed to despise their enemy. Instead, they chose to treat their opponents as friends, as fellow soldiers locked in something they didn't want to fight. That's the power of Christmas. It calls us to think of others as being children of God. It tasks us to behave in ways that are giving and caring. That is the power of Christmas, to change our hearts and to help us find the good in each other. It makes us at this time of year into the people we ought to be all the time. We need Christmas, and we need it all the time. No, not the tinsel and carols, wonderful though they are. Rather, we need the spirit of love that comes with this night. We need to find the good in the human spirit and the call to caring and generosity. Recall this time in the days to come. Speak for kindness and compassion. Discourage the drums of war. Believe that human beings are capable of goodness, and maybe it will come to pass. In the ancient story, the angels sing, "Peace on earth, goodwill to men, goodwill to all." For centuries, Unitarians and then Unitarian Universalists have given energy prayers and meditations to peace on earth, goodwill to all. Those words were so powerful to our religious tradition that Unitarian minister Edmund Hamilton Sears penned them into his Christmas carol, "It Came Upon the Midnight Clear." Renowned poet and also Unitarian, Henry W. Longfellow also penned them in his poem, later set to music, "I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day." This coming new year may bring conflict and strife. May we ever, in these troubled times, ever keep the spirit of Christmas. There are those who profit from conflict. Love must win. We must always hear the sound in our spirit that calls us to peace on earth, goodwill to all.